In the vast sun-bleached frontier, where the horizon shimmered like a mirage, and the wind carried the cries of eagles, lived a young Apache woman named Nasha, known to her people for her fierce loyalty and sharp mind. She was taller than most in her tribe and carried herself with quiet confidence, a woman whose presence felt carved from stone and storm. But her world, once rooted in tradition and honor, collapsed like dry clay the moment a conflict erupted between her tribe and a neighboring settlement. Rumors spread that someone from within had revealed the tribe's hunting trails to outsiders. A whisper turned to accusation, and before Nasha could defend herself, the council, fueled by fear and pressure, declared her a traitor. She stood in the center of the tribal circle, her dark hair whipping like a banner. In the desert wind, yet no voice rose to defend her. Even those who doubted her guilt stayed silent, afraid to challenge the council. Within minutes, she was banished, stripped of her place, forced to walk into the empty desert with nothing but a water pouch and the weight of betrayal. She wandered for hours beneath the punishing sun, each step heavier than the last, until dizziness overtook her. She collapsed in the dunes, unaware that two riders were approaching, one of them a quiet, shy cowboy named Caleb Morgan, a man known more for tending his farmland than wielding a gun. Caleb spotted her lying in the sand and rushed to her side, brushing the hot grains from her face. "She's still breathing," he murmured to his fellow rider, "but barely." He lifted her with surprising care and placed her on his horse, carrying her back to his homestead, a modest cabin surrounded by golden fields. Days passed as Caleb nursed Nasha back to health. When she finally woke, startled by unfamiliar surroundings, he raised his hands gently. "You're safe," he said, his voice soft as a morning breeze. "I found you in the desert. You'd have died out there." Nasha tried to speak, but her throat was raw. He offered her water, and something in his kindness, simple, without agenda, made her shoulders soften. As she regained strength, she helped him around the small ranch, observing how patiently he worked the land, how he treated even the animals with respect. Caleb, though shy, found himself drawn to her quiet resilience. At night they sat by the fire, sharing fragments of their pasts. Nasha about her family, her tribe, her dreams. Caleb about his life of solitude, his mother's teachings, and his determination to live peacefully despite the frontier's harshness. The more they spoke, the more they realized their spirits carried the same bruises: loss, loneliness, longing for a home that truly welcomed them. But peace never lasted long in the Wild West. One evening, the silence shattered when a group of men arrived, settlers, angry over recent tensions with the Apache tribe. They saw Nasha outside the cabin and immediately blamed her for raids she had nothing to do with. Caleb stepped between her and the guns pointed at her chest. "She's under my protection," he growled, surprising even himself with the steel in his voice. The men threatened to return with more numbers. Caleb knew trouble was coming. When he told Nasha she was free to leave before things got dangerous, she shook her head. "You saved my life," she whispered. "I will not run from yours." Something changed that night, not in danger, but in understanding. For the first time since her banishment, she felt seen, trusted, valued. Caleb couldn't deny the truth, growing in his chest either. As the moon climbed high, he stood with her by the edge of the field. "Nasha," he said quietly, "I don't care what anyone thinks you did. I know your heart, and He hesitated, breath trembling. "I don't want you to go." She stared at him, her eyes reflecting firelight and the ache of hope. "Where would I go," she asked softly, "if not with you?" The desert wind hushed as if the world paused to listen. Two lost souls had found each other, but the past had not finished with them. By dawn, the tribe would learn she was alive, and the settlers would return with anger burning hotter than the sun. The tension that brewed in the desert promised only one thing: a storm was coming. And the choices they made next would change their fates forever. If you're enjoying this emotional Wild West journey, stay with us because Chapter 2 is where the heart of the story truly ignites. The morning sky blazed orange as the sun climbed over the mesas, but the warmth did nothing to ease the cold tension gripping Caleb's ranch. Nasha sensed it long before she heard the distant hoofbeats, an uneasy tremor in the earth, a warning carried in the wind. Caleb tightened his grip on the rifle resting beside the door. Though he hated violence, what he feared was not the men or their bullets, but losing the woman who had breathed life into his quiet, lonely days. The first to arrive near the ranch was not the angry settlers, but a small group from Nasha's tribe. She stepped forward, heart thundering. The elders stood firm, their expressions carved from stone. Her younger brother, Tahoma, looked at her with a mixture of relief and fear, as if her very existence complicated everything. "You were seen with the white man," the eldest warrior said. "The council demands you return for judgment." Nasha's breath caught. Caleb stepped beside her without hesitation. "She's not going anywhere. With people who banished her for something she didn't." Two of the warriors stiffened. No one, not even those within the tribe, had defended her so boldly. "This is not your fight, farmer," one of them warned. "It is now," Caleb answered, voice low but unwavering. Before the confrontation escalated, more hoofbeats thundered across the field. The settlers had arrived, weapons raised. In seconds, the dusty morning transformed into a dangerous standoff. Tribe on one side, settlers on the other, Caleb and Nasha caught in the middle. She felt the weight of history pressing against her. Ribs, two worlds that had always clashed, now ready to spill blood because of her presence. Caleb stepped forward, gun lowered but grip firm. "Nobody's dying today," he said, his voice carrying a steadiness that surprised even the armed men. "You're angry. You're scared." But she did nothing. "And if any of you took 5 minutes to listen, you'd know the truth." A settler barked back. "She's Apache. That's enough." Nasha's heart sank, but Caleb shook his head. "No, it's not." He turned to the tribal warriors. "And you cast her out without proof. That isn't justice." Both sides shifted, glancing at one another. The fragile line between war and peace trembled. Then Caleb did perhaps the most reckless or bravest thing imaginable. He walked to Nasha and gently took her hand. "If you want peace," he said loudly, making sure everyone heard, "then hear this." He turned to her, eyes steady, voice trembling with truth. "Nasha, stay here with me, not because you owe me your life, because I love you. And if you'll have me, let's get married." Silence struck like lightning. Even the horses stopped breathing. Nasha stared at him, overwhelmed. No one had ever fought for her. No one had ever chosen her so boldly. And in Caleb's eyes she saw not pity, not desperation, just pure, unwavering devotion. She stepped toward him, her hand tightening in his. "I choose you," she whispered. "Not as a refuge, as my future." The two opposing groups looked at each other, startled. A love like this, a bridge between cultures, forged in hardship, was something rare in the harsh frontier. Tahoma broke the silence first. "If my sister chooses him," he said steadily, "we honor her choice." His voice cracked slightly. She was never a traitor. One by one, the tribal warriors lowered their weapons. The settlers hesitated, but seeing the tribe relent and recognizing the sincerity in Caleb's stance, slowly eased their grips as well. Hatred didn't vanish that morning, but something more important happened. Understanding cracked open, like sunlight between storm clouds. The worst battle in the desert ended without a single shot fired. Days later, under a sky brushed with gold and soft evening winds, Nasha and Caleb stood together on the ridge overlooking the fields. No church, no priest, just the desert as witness, their hands bound in a simple Apache wedding cord her brother had woven. Caleb's voice trembled as he vowed, "You will never walk alone again." Nasha touched his cheek with gentle strength. "And I will never stop fighting for the life we build together." As the sun dipped behind the mesas, painting the world in fire and hope, they sealed their vows with a kiss, quiet yet powerful, enough to calm the restless desert itself. Their story spread across settlements and tribal lands alike, not as a legend of conflict, but as a reminder that love could mend cracks carved by centuries of fear. And as their first evening as husband and wife settled around them, Caleb whispered, "Our story is just beginning." And it was. For those listening, watching, and dreaming across the campfires of the Wild West, the message was clear. Love can rise even from the harshest sands, and every ending the world tries to force upon you can become a beginning if you're brave enough to write your own story. If you want more powerful frontier tales like this one, make sure to subscribe, because the next story will take you even deeper into the heart of the Wild West, where legends are born from love, courage, and the fire of the human spirit.